Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Welcome to the Sit, Walk, Work podcast, a show about paying attention. My name is Dominic and I'm your host, and today is a guided meditation. And what you can expect is that the practice will open up with a brief recap, followed by the actual practice itself. If you find today's episode valuable, please share with your friends and family, and feel free to leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. The show will begin after the following chimes. Tonight's practice was working into the idea of the things we kind of cling towards, grab onto, or crave for can be an immediate source of our discomfort or suffering or whatever adjective fits the moment. And what happens if we just for a moment, if only for the practice, try to let some of that go? Notice what comes up with that. And so we got there by the breath. We started kind of generally, narrowed in a little more with our focus on the breath, and then widen back out to feel what's happening in the body as we breathe. Notice how that kind of all layered up together to create the feeling tone, the kind of thought patterns that were accompanying what was arising and coming up. Then I asked you to explore this idea of craving, wanting. What is it that you would like to have in this moment that might not be true, that you find yourself thinking about or desiring, and kind of feel what that felt like. And then I asked you to be okay with not getting that and seeing what that felt like. And as a matter of just thinking, notice what those two experiences had to offer. And then brought it back around to the breath, a little bit of gratitude for just even going through the motions and the exercises. To show up and practice is an opportunity to learn and to develop these skills deeper for yourself and obviously for everyone. Because if we get ourselves better, then we just move through this world in a better way. As you begin to get seated or lie down, let your hands rest somewhere comfortably where they're not going to be moving around and kind of taking away from your experience. Make sure your spine has the space and the front of your body has the space to breathe. Sometimes when we kind of get collapsed or compressed, it can constrict our breathing. And that's an important part of our practice, to be able to breathe freely and openly. So take a breath in. Feel that breath. Make sure you're able to take a good breath and then let that breath go. Make adjustments as you need. I invite you now to close the eyes. Take in turn, if you will, the attention in, right? Attention's been going out. It's been very outwardly driven today, like it is for most of us. Work, kids, holidays, school, whatever. Like there's a lot going on in your life, and your attention is getting pushed outside of yourself. And so for practice today, we take that and we kind of rotate it around, and we start to inspect and explore what's going on internally within us. That way we can kind of begin to understand ourselves a little better and at a deeper level. And it's from that understanding that compassion, patience, and wisdom can be born. And so as you close the eyes and start to focus internally, soften and relax the jaw a little bit. Notice if you're holding tension there. And our journey for today's practice, we're going to be kind of moving through kind of this next step. I've been taking us through the various parts of our meditation experience, right? A couple weeks ago, we focused on, you know, the idea that, suffering is a normal component of our life and it does impact a lot of the things that we do. And um, last week, we looked at some of those causes, right? That craving, those preferences, attaching really closely to moments and situations, and how that kind of can create discomfort for us. And today's practice is going to take us into how do we release some of that discomfort? How do we get to be a little softer in the moment and kind of be in our space with a little more ease, if you will? So that's where I plan on taking us. As your attention starts to notice just the subtle movement of your breathing right now, coming and going of the breath. And as you just kind of keep the attention a little wide, you can still feel the breath. But I want you to also notice as you're breathing, like where you feel tension at all as you breathe, right? It's a natural part of the breathing process to reach moments where things are a little tense. And then as you kind of exhale, there can be a little bit of softness that occurs. See if you can connect with that in this moment. When we first start to drop in and bring our attention to focus on one object, in this case, your breath, all the other parts of your experience tend to raise their volume because your breath isn't the only thing here. You're dealing with sounds, you're dealing with feelings, you're dealing with thoughts. And there's a constant, steady stream of these changing from moment to moment. So if you find yourself pulled away, your attention drops into something else. You are then given the opportunity to bring it back in a way that's kind, in a way that's soft, in a way that is a little different than how you may treat yourself with other things that happen in your mind. If for only this practice, can you be a little more patient with yourself? Can you begin to bring your focus even more tighter to the breath? See if you can feel it the moment it starts. So the next time a breath comes in, can you follow it from exactly where it starts and let your attention move with it until it trails off? Do the same with the exhale to follow. Notice that with each exhale, as you slip into those, that it has this subtle resting quality, this natural disillusion that happens as each breath ends. It's as if the body, if only for a brief moment, it relaxes as the breath exits. And then you're re energized or alivened as the next breath kind of rolls back around. Here's where we can begin to widen the attention even further now to include those feelings that are created by your breath pattern changing, by the focus you've given to your breathing for the last few minutes. And as you widen the focus of your attention to include your body, notice too where you feel contracted in the body. Notice the parts that feel open and a little more expansive and available. When we find ourselves sitting in the space of open awareness, that means the attention has a bit of a wider aperture when we're in this space without any one thing to focus on. Then all of the possibilities exist. And it's merely where your attention goes. You might begin to notice that the sensations in the body, those the heaviness, the lightness, the temperature, the texture, the discomfort, the parts that feel great, none of it's really ever staying the same. Like no two breaths are the same, no sensation will stay the same, even in the most subtle ways. It kind of dissolves and it rebuilds itself slightly different, And this dance between breath and sensations in your body, they start to help influence your feeling tones, right? In a general sense. You additionally have the thought pattern that is here with you as you sit. And those can vary. Sometimes they can be supportive, other times, maybe not so much. And the goal, much like the breath, is to let them move. Take a step back from needing to influence this moment, seeing how they impact your breath and the feeling and the sensations you have in your body. As you sit here, kind of observing everything unfolding, I want you to see if you can notice any part of your practice where you find yourself wanting something to happen, whether that's a certain feeling, a certain thought process. Hell, we're in the time of gift giving, so it could be even wanting or craving a certain gift to happen outside of this practice. But I invite you to begin to feel what it's like when you're in this space of wanting something to happen. And as you let your thinking mind kind of bring forth this idea, I want you to notice in your body any points of constriction associated with this desire to want, to have preferences or things. Often the list for what we want can be long and varied. And in looking at this in the practice, we start to feel and see the way it kind of lands within us. And oftentimes we can be really strongly attached to some of these wants, these cravings. So little by little, we use our practice to give us some space. And the way I'll ask you to do that is now to consider, what if you just let go of that wanting, just to sense and feel what it's like in this practice to do that. Doesn't mean that the craving might not return or the desire may not repeat. But what if you resolved with the next breath to exhale it out and let it go and sit in that space and notice what that's like? Remembering that your attention can be both with the thought and with the feeling and the breath and the body. That there's enough space here within your awareness to hold all the moving parts. In meditation, we often say that the breath is enough to teach you everything you need to know about the practice. And if you're observing this idea of releasing this desire, preference, part of the practice, as you go through it, you'll find that it is to be repeated, that repetition is key. That you don't just let go of it once and never have to deal with it. Much like your breath, you must let go each time. There is a part of us that craves to take in like the breath does. But as much as we bring in, we must be able to let go in order to make space for what's new. To try to hold it all is too much. It's the birthplace for our discomforts. And you can begin to soften the attention from just the thinking mind and bring it back to the breath, back to the place that it started. To let the process of beginning again happen here. It's only from the space you make by emptying out do you create the room for all the possibilities to unfold. In the next few minutes of practice, can you begin to provide yourself with a bit of kind wishes for showing up, for attending to your practice, for letting yourself be here with this moment, for knowing that you really want to be well, to have more wholeness, to be more capable and resilient to the challenges we all face, and that you've taken a step towards that. You've planted a seed for that to be true. And that the merit of this work is valuable to yourself and to everyone you love. Begin to let your attention come to your hands. Begin to open and close your fists, making little fists, open and closing your palms. Maybe wiggling your toes a little bit. Kind of sending the signal that when you're ready, you can begin to open your eyes as we bring our practice to a close. As we softly open them and take our gaze back outward, right? We realize that your gaze, much like your attention when your eyes were closed, can kind of rest between both worlds, looking out, but also looking in and noticing what happens out here and how it lands in here. Listening to today's episode, I invite you to check out my Substack, where we are building a community of like-minded individuals to discuss all topics related to the idea of paying attention. I hope to see you there, but until then, with metta may you be well.